So I finished the other photography textbook, as I told you guys, but I've been on this like lighting textbook that's been really fun. This is just the personal life update section of the stream. And it's this textbook. You're welcome to take a screenshot if you'd like to take a screenshot. And after so many pages talking about like stuff that I don't shoot, but I'm like, it'll probably like explain a lot of things, so you don't want to skip it. And they reference certain things later. Um I finally got to like portraits. And I was like, yes, because there was this whole section. It was actually kind of hard to read because there was a whole section about glass. And I'm like, dog, don't get me wrong. The glass stuff is cool. But like shooting glass, I have a lot of respect now for anyone who takes photos of glass objects. However, what when am I ever going to be shooting glass, man? I don't shoot glass. But it is kind of cool. They talk about how like there are different basically with glass. Hold up, let me pull this up. You see these two photos? I'm sure you guys can agree. One of these photos looks much better than the other one. One of them kind of looks like shit, and the other one actually looks dope as hell. And basically, glass has like a really large family of angles, and the only way to like photograph glass really well is to have like really sharp edges around the glass, right? And you can only do it in one of two ways, basically. Whether it's like you have the edges be dark and the background be light, or the background be dark and the edges be light. And both of those work. It's like dark field versus light field method. And I have to say the way that they do it is really cool, right? Um, Let me see if I can find one of the impressive photos that they explain this. Hold up. No, not that. Not that one. That one's kind of cool too. Maybe we can talk about that for a second. Hold. I guess it was this image. This one's a little hard to explain. What about people selling mirrors? Oh, wait, how do we get to this topic? Well, people are asking about books. But basically, you don't want to directly light glass because then it has like these ugly reflections on it. At the very least, when you want reflections on glass, you should be choosing to put them in, right? And the strategy is basically you have the light source behind the opaque background. So if you're doing like a dark background and like light glass, you want to put a dark, opaque background, and then you want to put a light behind it so it illuminates the glass, but not directly. Which is kind of cool. I have to say, like I said, I have a lot more respect for these photographs of glass now. Very enlightening reading. Shut up. The other strategy is instead to have like the light, not instead of like facing the black card, it's facing away from it to a reflector card, which is kind of cool. And like if you want to put highlights in, basically like, so like they show it here, you can, so you set up the entire like shot, but then if you want reflections in for like an extra like vibe, sometimes you'll get like reflections of things you don't want that look like if you look here really closely, you can tell that this light source, you can see that it's a softbox. So what they do is they put like tape over the softbox to make it look like a window, which is, I have to say, like really cool. Like that's kind of dope. Like I know that that's not that like crazy, but one person had to sit down and be like, wait a minute, what if we made it look like a window by putting some fucking duct tape on this bitch? Like that's cool. I thought it was a window, yeah. Or like the way that this is shot, for example, like they put this tiny little card, this paper strip, and then they shoot this photo by putting a light background. Like that's a sick ass shot. And then they talk about how like you put sometimes if you have drinks that have, so like this is a good example where like the background has to be exactly the right size, because when it's not the right size, and there's liquid in it, it reflects, or like it shows, because the liquid acts as like a lens that like shows more than what you want. So you can see here, like you can see like the background and like the light in a way that's like not as appealing refracts. So you can like make the background smaller by getting closer, and you might lose some detail down here, but it's worth it because now that's actually you can tell what's in it. Or like this, where it's like a beer, but the beer looks gross because there's no direct light on the beer. And what you can do instead is basically you cast a shadow of the glass, you trace the shadow, you cut out this shadow from like a white piece of paper or like a gold piece of paper, and then you put it right behind the glass, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I don't know. It's the glass part was kind of cool, but like, isn't it a light grid, not tape? Well, in the textbook they said they just added tape. Like you could use a light grid, but in the textbook they said that they just added tape. Let me see if I can find it. Like, we used tape to reduce the studio look of this shot and to give it the illusion of a window being reflected on the glass surface, right? But I was excited to get to like the photography section, and I was like, wow, like I feel like we all know what good photos look like, but we don't know why. And I've been so excited about this part of the textbook. Like they use this as an example. Okay. Where they show like this like orb. Where is it? Notice the placement of the highlight simply feels more right than if we had centered it or say put it near the bottom of the sphere. And it's like, the placement of the highlight on this orb above and to the left or right of the center simply feels natural. I'm like, wait, they're right. It does kind of just feel right. If it was right in the middle, it would feel like off. If it was on the bottom, it would feel off. Ah. And they talk about like how you can tell if lighting is good or like bad or if it's too flat based on this like key triangle. It's like, I didn't know any of this shit. It's like, oh, cool. Or like this, like learning about the different types of like where you put lighting and why to do that, or like hair lights. I don't know why I never thought about these ideas, but well, I guess I just never read classical. I never learned about any of these things in a traditional sense or a classical sense. But then they also talk about like how important hair light is. So you can see in this photo, like they'll show like what it looks like without it. So like this is some random photo or whatever. This is just the hair light. And then this is like the hair light with all of the other studio lights. It's like, oh, wow, that does really give it like polish and sheen. Because like one of my favorite photos that I've ever taken, I unintentionally had a hair light, which is why I probably liked it so much. Whereas like without the hair light, especially if you have darker hair, it like, it just like, it looks a little flat, like it's missing something. And then you add that hair light and it gives like a slight glow in a way that's cool. But they also said basically like hair light doesn't really work that well when you have really light hair because it makes you sometimes disappear in the background. I was like, oh, wait, that's cool. Or like you can take really interesting shots like this because, and this is only because of a hair light. Otherwise this character would fade into the background completely. So yeah, I was just like reading about this stuff. Kind of cool. This is another instance of like adding a hair light and like it completely changes the photo from being like, I feel like this is what, when I want to take photos, I'm like, this is what ends up happening. But I never thought about the fact that like a hair light will change the photo completely. What is a hair light? A light that lights your hair. A light from above meant to light up your hair, to give you more dimension. A hair light, if you will. I think they like have like a little diagram that kind of shows it. Yeah. Here's like the hair light. It tends to be like a little behind you and above you. So it's like, it would be over like here, but like farther back maybe. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of really, I don't know, very cool. And then let's see. Then they talk about like how you should stay in key if you can. And like, this one's pretty cool, talking about like where to put lights, talking about how you can play with gels. And that's it. And that's where I'm at. I'm here now, the extremes. This is where I'm at. It's really funny because sometimes the photography textbook will like diss random people to be like, you would be surprised by the number of times you tell a client to show up in a certain type of outfit and then they show up in something completely different. Do you have a hair light in your profile picture? Well, that's what I mean, actually. Like, I really like my profile picture, and I don't understand. I didn't know why I liked it so much, but I liked it so much probably because of the hair light, whereas a lot of the pictures I've taken have never had a hair light. I was like, oh, that must be like why. Like, if I like how 3D I look in my profile picture. That's so smart. So, yeah, reflecting a fake window in a shiny bald head. Now you're thinking. Now you're thinking. Anyways, this is just some like random textbook. I don't know. I've been really enjoying it. It's like the first couple of chapters are really, I would say, kind of boring because they're just explaining how like light works and why light works the way that it works and how we can use it to our advantage. And there's a lot of time spent on talking about like what are the types that like everything you see is light, obviously, but objects tend to have direct or diffuse reflections or some mix of the two, and you have to deal with these things differently based on what they are. And also, most of the time, most objects have both. But yeah, it's cool. The physics part is the boring part. Yeah. But you gotta like learn some of it. So, would any of this apply to live streaming? Would you consider adding a hair light to your? Well, actually, I recently added. Part of this is because I feel like I've never liked my camera and lighting setup on stream. So I was like, I'm gonna try. I'm a career lighting tech and film and video. Everything Denim said is based and spot on. Nice. I mean, it's a pretty good textbook. I've been enjoying it. It's called Light Science and Magic, um, 6th edition, an introduction to photographic lighting. But I added like this like diffuser to my light recently because I was like, maybe I just really don't like how harsh it is. But like, I don't really like this either. So like, I want to like fuck with my whole like lighting setup now that I'm learning so much, right? Got to start with a solid foundation. Yeah, and the other thing too is having not started with solid foundations in the past with other things, it sets you back so bad. Like, you guys ever try to like, the only example that comes to mind is like trying to learn a language that you kind of know, or like trying to learn like art when you already have been like self-taught. It's really hard to go back to fundamentals because there's so much in there that you already know. So it's really frustrating, right? Teaching yourself guitar and then trying to take lessons because you kind of have to restart at the beginning because there's probably really, really simple foundational principles that you missed. So you got to like go all the way back, which is kind of like irritating as hell. But I've never learned cameras or lighting, so I can start at the beginning and it doesn't feel like I'm rereading anything because I don't know anything. So it's been really cool. I don't know. I've been really enjoying it. Also, using a camera that's too old to use a battery and needing to understand everything manually will help with foundational information. Oh, for sure. So I will say I did read also this other textbook about photography, and this textbook is basically written for like if you don't have a digital camera. And this one was also good. Like, it explained a lot of concepts. And it doesn't like basically like the author really tries his best to say like, hey, like I don't want you to end up with a bunch of photos that you just end up needing to like color correct and like fix in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever afterward, like post processing. Like and this textbook is kind of fun because it talks about how like you want to reduce as much post processing work as you can, but also sometimes post processing work isn't work like is less work than setting up the shot. So like they talk about this shot, for example, where it's like for the opening photo in this chapter, we added a vignette so that the viewer's eye is directed to the face. Some photographers would use I think it's called gobo. I've only read it, so I don't know if it's pronounced, but held in place with a flexible clamp attached to a light stand, placed it so it blocks some of the light from the bottom of the image. This effectively darkens the bottom of the image. However, as we have to work fairly quickly with people and will change the poses throughout the sitting, this approach can become cumbersome. Most photographers will just add the vignette in Photoshop on their client selected images. Basically saying that sometimes it's worth it to set up the shot. If it's easy to set up the shot so there's less post-processing work, you should do that. But sometimes setting up a perfect shot that needs no... Is it vignette? But isn't it like a French word? Do you really pronounce the T on that? Is it not vignette? Vignette sounds wrong. What the hell? I don't like vignette. Ew. Ew. Anyways, whatever. But then they just talk about that. So I don't know. I've been enjoying that. That's what I read in my spare time. I recommend it, guys. If you want to learn about a topic, just like you can just like get textbooks and read about it. It's kind of cool. It's kind of dope. You actually could just, yeah, you can actually just do that. How'd you find the book and topic? I just Googled like good books on photography help, need help now. And a bunch came up, and I've just been trying to read them in the order that made the most sense. Because I feel like low key, YouTube on some things is not a good source for information because a lot of like YouTube video. First of all, it's the same problem that like you run into with anime and manga, where like a lot of people love mangas generally more than the animes because they feel like some scenes don't like they didn't get enough emphasis, and a lot of scenes that had so much emphasis didn't need them. Whereas with manga, you can kind of just like go through it pretty fast, and then the scenes you like, you can take your time, like the page turners, you can take your time and really appreciate a panel. Um, and I feel like it's the same thing with YouTube videos, where sometimes it's like YouTubers will spend so much time talking about some shit that I don't care about, that I don't need. And if I was like reading it in a textbook, I wouldn't be like trying that hard to like memorize like the glass section. It's like the glass section is cool, but I'm not taking photos of glass. I understand the foundational principles, and if I need it, I'll go back and brush up on it, but I'm not taking any photos of glass. And I feel like that's the problem with YouTube videos. Sometimes YouTube videos optimize for like viewer retention, or sorry, YouTube videos, a lot of the ones that perform well, optimize for viewer retention. So they won't cover the boring stuff that's foundational that you need because it's hard to cover it in a way that's comprehensive without being boring. You know? So I just feel like, and it's like, what are you going to do? Make like a 50-part video on like lighting, on just like lights? Like there's just so much, right? Whereas when you're making a textbook, if people who are sitting down and committing to writing a textbook, they understand and they're fully committing to, I am going to write a comprehensive book for a person at this level of competence. Like the book starts by saying, hey, if you don't know anything about cameras, you should go learn about cameras first and then come back. Because we're not teaching you anything about cameras, and we're going to use information that you would only know if we're going to assume you already know that. We're going to assume you already know what aperture is or whatever. It's about your special interest. My special interest is learning. That's the truth, guys. But yeah, so recently I've just been reading this lighting textbook, and I've been enjoying it. I'll tell you guys what the next one I read is, and whether or not it's good. Also, YouTubers have a monetary incentive to waste your time. Books don't in the same type of way. Yeah, it feels like the book is really trying to teach you the subject correctly, and YouTube videos are not trying to do that. They're trying to make a video that teaches you the things that they think are important, that might be helpful for you. And there's just like such an overabundance. And I've watched videos where it's like they over-explain some things or they never cover other things. And like, I just can't. I prefer textbooks for like straight learning, for learning new things that I know nothing about. I feel like YouTube videos are good if you already have like a foundational understanding of a topic and you're looking for specific information. Right? Straight learning. I don't gay learn around here. But anyways, that's what I want to talk about with all of you on that stuff. For readers, anonymous, for those of you interested in reading.